Luna bars. I keep Luna bars and like seltzer water in my office so that on a day where I am having trouble recognizing hunger and thirst signals, I can feed myself and get some water within my office. These are things that I have had to figure out that I wish I had, right? Oh, I wish I had something to drink just right here. Well, ta-da, now you do because you're grown up. Hello, sunshine. Welcome back to another episode of the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast. We took an unplanned break last week because my mental health was in the shitter and I didn't record one. So that happens and you're allowed to skip a week of stuff. Just normalizing that. Humanity is complex. Ta-da! Anyway, today I am responding to a question that came to me from Julia. So Julia says, I struggle with creating a workspace and I would be interested in your thoughts on that. I try to have a bare desk, but that's hard to get in my home. And also setting up a supportive environment for creative flow. Like music with words is too much for me, but classical music is too slow for the setting of my book. And then also like cleaning things and resetting for like the next time that you are going to come into your creative workspace. So those were delightful questions, Julia. Thank you. And we have spoken a little bit about like finding the space for your creative, whatever you want to do. I'll put a link to that episode into the show notes because we've touched on this topic before, but now I want to specifically speak to like designing and organizing and maintaining that workspace. And as you can see, if you are on the YouTube, my workspace is a little messy. I have a desk that's covered in stuff. That desk was probably covered in the same stuff in the last episode about workspaces. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. But let's jump in. So, thing number one, especially when Julie here mentioned that it's really hard to keep the desk like perfectly clean and bare. So my first question is like, what assumptions do you have and what standards are you trying to maintain? And are those your standards that work best for you, or is that something that somebody told you is a good productive thing to have? Because for some people, yes, a perfectly clean desk is a really good way for them to sit down and enjoy just the blank slate of it, and they don't have to like do anything first. I tend to have a little bit of clutter on my desk, a mix of like works in progress. So like I have like 4 or 5 crystals here. And I have been painting watercolors of each crystal and like writing down what they are used for. So those are sort of like a work in progress that have been staying at my desk because sometimes I'll just kind of like grab one and work on it. But it's been a while, so I could probably stand to put those away. I'm not like that stressed about it though, because as long as like my desk has something to write with and a pad of paper so that I can take notes and do stuff, I'm pretty good. However, when it comes to like my art table, which you can see behind me in the video, that is something that I do need it to be clear if I'm going to come in and actually work on something. I have not been creating at that table, which I got specifically for my creative projects, because it has been cluttered and covered in stuff. Now, it's covered in creative stuff, but that doesn't mean that I can access it. And we've also spoken to this in like the executive functioning episode. Like if there's pre-steps before the task that you want to do, it's pretty likely that your brain's just not going to want to do that. So for instance, if I say, I would really love to work on a painting, but when I come into my office/art studio, the place where I want to work on that painting is covered in clutter. So I can't work on the painting because I would have to get into cleaning mode rather than creativity mode, which are different brain modes. Realizing so much that my mom was neurodivergent. She had modes and she had difficulty with transitions. Oh, you ever just see where the tree was that the apple fell from? And you're like, damn, that is an autistic tree. I'm just going to have a moment here with that. Anyway, I haven't been as creative because my table for creativity is covered in stuff that I need to deal with. That would probably take me 10 minutes to deal with. Maybe I'll do that after this episode. Wish me luck. If in the next episode that table is clean, I want you to leave me a comment and say good job, because I need that to live. Okay? Thank you. We now have a social contract. Praise me if I clean that desk. Thank you. So, the assumptions part of it, though. Some people can totally just create in a messy chaos room, right? They'll be like, whatever, I got space over here. I'm just going to do some stuff over here because my desire to create is more important than my desire to create at a clean surface. I could maybe do that in my office, at the kitchen table, just kind of shove some stuff and then make a clear surface. But a place where I cannot do that is the kitchen. So when I walk into the kitchen, if I'm going to cook something, I need the counters to be clear. I need them to be clean. There can't be like yesterday's dishes on the counter or a cutting board that somebody left out, like with a knife just hanging out, like they're going to come back and chop another vegetable later. I need stuff to go into the sink and be away so that I can come in. Like, we have 4 adults who live in one house and we have one kitchen. So like, for me, the bare minimum social contract of using the kitchen is to then leave it usable for the next person who needs it. My office is my space. So I don't have that same thing that I do in the kitchen. I wish I did. I'm going to try and cultivate that now. But there's operations happening in our brain and standards of what a workspace should look like and function like. So that's part 1, is identify those standards and assumptions. And then step 2 of creating your neurodivergent friendly creative workspace is, what are your patterns and habits? Because if you cannot keep a surface clean for the life of you, then expecting yourself to clean your surface every single day so that there's always space for the creativity, like, that's not really working with your inherent like patterns and standards that you exist within. So thus, you will not be creative as much as you want because you're holding yourself to a standard that is very hard to achieve. So what are your patterns? What are your like clutter habits? Are you how do you organize? And I will shout out, there is a website called like The Clutter Bug or Miss Clutterbug or something like that. And she has a quiz that you take about like how you interact with clutter and how you see clutter like visually. And she gives you a different insect. There's crickets, ladybugs, bees, and butterflies, I think. And I know that I'm a cricket, which means that I organize via doom piles until something has a designated home. And then I will pretty much always put that thing in its designated home. Again, you can see this in the kitchen because I have a Pyrex cabinet where I have very strict standards on how the containers get organized and put away in a way that is easy to use and you don't have to go searching for a fucking lid every single time. That drives me nuts. I do not like it. I also am very like consciously aware of the leftovers situation at all times. So like if somebody opens up a bag of grapes and then just like puts the bag of grapes back in there and they like never touch the grapes again, I'm going to be like, the grapes are in there, the grapes are in there, the grapes, the grapes, the grapes. Reminding myself about the grapes. Other people that I live with, kind of the leftovers just blend in to the rest of life. And they're like, oh yeah, those leftovers have been in there all week. And I, who have seen the leftovers every single time I have opened the fridge to make my morning coffee, am like, how did you forget? I don't understand the world in which you forget your own leftovers. But maybe that's a food scarcity poverty thing. We don't need to talk about my leftovers trauma. Anyway, back to the clutter bug. So I like things to go in designated homes. Out of sight is fine, as long as I know where the bin is. And this is how my mom organizes too. She would get like like nice bins, maybe with lids, and like label them. So one would be like first aid and one would be like going outside, right? And the going outside bin has like sunscreen, bug spray, I don't know, maybe like a little travel umbrella or something, like anything that you would need for a trip outdoors can be found in the going outside box. And that's how I organize as well. Butterflies, if it is not out and visible, they do not see it. Butterflies need things to be bold and bright and visible. And so my cricket energy, where I'm like, why don't you know that only the Chinese soup spoons go into the upcycled Chinese food container? Chinese and Chinese soup spoons, keep them separate so they're not all the hell over the place. Other people are like, hey, a little box. I'm just going to put whatever silverware in that little box. And I'm like, this little box is 4 things. It's a box. It has a designation. Not everybody thinks like this. So take the clutter bug quiz. I think it's quite insightful, even if it is not specifically speaking like to your cluttering, organizing, and tidying methods. I think it's really helpful to figure out how you like compartmentalize your stuff. Highly recommend that quiz. Changed my life. And now I'm like so much more forgiving, right? When people don't inherently know where all my categories and bins and boxes are, right? Like if somebody's like, hey, where are the Tums? I know where the fuck the Tums are because they're in the logical place for Tums, which is first aid and medicines. But other people are just like, I don't know, where's Tums? I don't see the Tums. Although, let me tell you, the Tums are on the countertop. So get your butterfly eyes checked, I guess. So many tangents. It's late in the day and my meds are wearing off. So when it comes to your workspace, how are you going to deal with clutter, deal with stuff? I'm going to go grab like a few different ways that I sort of organize my paints. This is my miscellaneous art bin. It contains miscellaneous art because I don't have enough of any one like art hobby to necessitate its own bin. So anything that where I just have like a few parts, such as like colored pencils. I've got like 2 things of colored pencils. That's not enough for them to need their own entire bin. So they just go into the miscellaneous art bin. I also have washi tape for journaling. So journaling stuff might also go in here. I actually recently gave away a bunch of journaling stuff to somebody in a buy nothing group because I wasn't using it. I have these little like sticker things that are, I think, for like your planner or a journal. I picked those up at a going out of business sale, so I haven't super explored them yet. I have like metallic patina kind of paints. Into the miscellaneous art bucket it goes. And then when I do have something, let me just put all these back in my bin. When I do have something where I have a vast amount of material for one thing, that is going to get designated into its own bin. For example, these are all my acrylic paints and all of my paint brushes. They live in this little canvas tote so that if I want to paint with my acrylics, all I have to do is pick up my tote, get a canvas or whatever, and I know that it's all here. I don't have to go searching all over the place for it. Speaking of all over the place, my watercolors are on the floor next to me. The watercolor paints live in a crown bag, which my boyfriend said I wouldn't find a use for all my crown bags. Never, ever tell a crafty bitch with ADHD that they won't find a use for a bunch of sturdy bags. That's your life lesson today. So in here I have like gouache and watercolors, which I'm going to take this opportunity to clean up the watercolor projects that I have sitting at my desk right now. Look at this. We're cleaning with Caitlin today. Now, we have spoken before about the 3-tiered cart and how they're going to save the world and how every problem can be solved with a 3-tier cart. Except like genocide. I don't think the 3-tier cart can touch that. But any organizational problem in your home, 3-tiered cart. So my top tier holds this little tote. My middle tier has other painting paraphernalia, like where I'm going to put my watercolors and where I have some like various like textured mediums that I can like mix paint with to make like a textured painting like the one behind me. Today's really an episode for YouTube. So if you're listening to this on just audio, you want the YouTube. Pro tip. Another way that my Cricut energy comes through is that I like to do collage, and I also have collected an assortment of stickers through the years. And so I've started organizing those in a binder. So I have like pages of stickers, with like trading card sheets. So we got stickers, and then eventually I started cutting out like small pieces of various colors. So my goal here is to have magazine clippings arranged in like small colored pieces so that when I need a certain color, I can go find it. This one is houses. Then I have letters, where I have started cutting out letters. So those are arranged alphabetically, as one would do with the alphabet. It's got an inherent organization system. Words. And then I have just scraps of like magazine clippings organized by color. So I have like reds, oranges, yellows, greens, blues, purples, pinks. And then I get into, that one's browns. And then I have some that are just words, some that are just like nice visuals that I have cut out, like maybe like a comic book eyeball or something that I'm just like, I like that eyeball. I want it. So it gets cut out, and it won't be used as just color material. Like I specifically want that visual element, yada, yada. I don't need to go super into these details because maybe you don't do collage, but this is another way that's like a bin, like a thing where I can organize it and then put it out of sight and just go get it when I need it. So that's the way that I organize best, and that works for me. If you are someone who needs things out in the open in order to like remember that they're even there, something like a tall drawer set that actually like goes in the colors of the rainbow, like you can buy them at Michael's or whatever. It like starts, you got a couple of red ones, orange, it goes through the whole rainbow. You know the rainbow. If you're here, you're queer and you're hanging out with me and you know the rainbow. So in that sense, I might organize all of my collage materials by color in that visual way so that whenever I want to do collage, I can just go and find the colors that I need because visually I see the reminder that they are there. So that's a little foray into like clutter management organization styles. You also need to know like your own sensory inputs and needs and patterns. Like Julie mentioned, like music with words can be distracting. Classical music's too slow. So like what kind of music? And here is a shout out to, hang on, I gotta go find this YouTube channel that I love. It's called like Mind Amend. It is by a guy named Jason Lewis, and he puts together like very long mixes of like house or drum and bass, or it's like really nice rhythmic music, and it's just great for ADHD. It helps me focus so much just to have that kind of like ongoing beat, and it's like fast enough that I'm staying engaged. It's not like long and swishy and whooshy and calming. It's like, yeah, do the thing musically. And I fucking love it. So Mind Amend by Jason Lewis on YouTube. Highly recommend. I also like video game music. Specifically for me, Spyro the Dragon soundtrack, because that is a game that I can like hyper fixate on and just play all the way through. And so I'm used to like doing tasks with that music on. So for me, video game background music or soundtracks can be very good for like productivity and staying focused. I find that I can't really do music with lyrics because then I'll start singing along, or I'll be like, oh, what are those lyrics? This is new. I haven't heard this. So that gets me out of my brain way too fast. I need to stay in my brain. So I need rhythmic, but not requiring my attention kind of music to help me focus. And then there's also other sensory inputs. Do you like lighting? Do you like soft lighting? Do you like a lot of lighting? Do you have windows? Can you get sunshine? What about smells? What about the temperature in the room? Sometimes in the summer, because my office has 2 windows and the room's pretty small, it gets warm in here. And I don't like that. and I start to feel sweaty and hot. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be in this room doing stuff because I don't feel good. Great. So we either get a fan or make sure that like my AC vent isn't clogged, etc. And also like in the winter, sometimes this room gets a little colder. We keep the door closed, which is why like it's a little off the climate of the rest of the house. Because I don't want my cat coming in here and eating all my stuff and barfing up my plants. That's French toast for you. So the temperature can be a little weird. So have a blanket. Have like some cozy slippers if your feet get cold. Anything that is going to like distract you out of having the enjoyable experience you want by giving you a bad sensory input, accommodate yourself. Also smell-wise, I love to do a candle. And I like to do candles with different scents for different tasks. So for example, like maybe you have a book writing candle and you have a painting candle and you have a working on writing your marketing content candle. I don't always do a candle, but I do enjoy them. And for like writing, I like coffee shop kind of candles because it gives me the ambiance without making me actually leave my house and go to a coffee shop. Even though I do love going to a coffee shop. That can be another thing that you do. If the work that you do can be done just like on a laptop or a tablet, get a change of scenery, leave the house, go somewhere else, make that your workspace and see what works and doesn't work and what you're like, oh, I like this, but I wish it had XYZ thing. So like that's the next thing is, so 1, what assumptions and standards are you operating with? 2, what are your patterns and habits? 3, whatever I just said. Oh, like what you're longing for, right? Like, oh, I wish I had more surfaces to work at, or I wish I had a special drink to drink. I don't know. You can start doing and figure out what you need to like fully accommodate your experience as you go. So for instance, like with multiple stations, my dream here is that I do my work and my writing at this desk where I am recording this on my computer. I have an art desk behind me where I would do art projects. I have a comfy chair also behind me where I can read books or chill out. And like, if I'm going to watch a training or something, I can move my office chair out of the way and just watch it on the computer from the comfier chair so that I'm also giving myself like bodily comforts. I also keep Luna bars. I keep Luna bars and like seltzer water in my office so that on a day where I am having trouble recognizing hunger and thirst signals, I can feed myself and get some water within my office. These are things that I have had to figure out that I wish I had, right? Oh, I wish I had something to drink just right here. Well, ta-da, now you do because you're grown up. I like the multiple stations approach. Like we have the writing station, we have the art station, we have the reading station, and it's also next to a little bookshelf, so it's super cute. It doesn't work for everybody though. You also might not have the space. So you can instead, and we did touch on this in that episode about like creating space for your creativity, is you can make like pick them up and move them kind of stations, like a bag or a bin or a box, some type of thing where you can take it wherever you need to go, and then you have all of your materials there with you. So if that is more helpful, like maybe sometimes you are going to work on an art project at the kitchen table. Sometimes you might sit on the floor in your living room and work at the coffee table. Sometimes you might take it to a coffee shop. If you always put all those things for that task back in the same tote bag, back in the same computer bag, back in the same, some type of container with a handle, you can take that with you. You're like, oh, let me just grab my art supplies real quick. Boop, got it. Let me get my camera bag. Boop, got it. Let me get my paints. Boop, got them. Create the workspace that works for you. Don't let anybody else tell you what the hell that needs to look like. It's just for you. Okay, and then thing number 4 that's going into how you design this is how do you choose what you're going to do? So if you walk into your creative workspace and you are going to do something creative today, how do you decide what that something is? Are you going based on your mood or like a feeling? You're like, oh, I kind of feel like paint today, or I kind of feel like poetry today, or I want to work on my novel today. Is it the availability of what's there? Like if I walked into this office And I was like, well, the art table's kind of cluttered, but the writing desk is totally free and clear. So I guess I could work on writing. That is not me. I need to like designate stuff and follow my whimsy. Are you the type of person who can plan in advance? So are you able to say like, okay, on Saturday for 2 hours, I'm going to work on a painting commission that I have. So that means that by Saturday, I need to have my painting table clean. Ta-da! Now we are starting to combine all of the habits, all of the inputs that you need in order to create a workspace that actually permits your organic flow as a neurodivergent creative. So number one, what are the standards and assumptions that you have? Anything that is not actually what you want, throw it out. Number two, what are your habits and patterns around sensory input and clutter and organization? Number three, what do you wish was there? What would be the most supportive for you? And this can be like items and objects, like I want 2 different tables, or this can be like, I want to be able to just come in and immediately focus. Like it can be a vibe, it can be like an emotional or a mental need, or it can be like a physical need. Like I literally need a second desk so that I can do my artwork at it. So what are the things that you long for that would make your workspace more flowy? And then number 4, how do you choose which creative things you are going to focus on? Is it a mood-based thing? Is it based on what you have available? Do you plan it in advance? And how do you need your workspace to combine all of these elements in order to make the best flowy space for you? Happy organizing, happy clutter bugging. Go take the clutter bug quiz. As for stuff that is coming up on my end, we have the Art is Revolution webinar / workshop / thing, free training on Saturday, May 4th, which is likely tomorrow if you are hearing this on Friday, May 3rd, the day that it's going out. And if you missed it, that's fine. You can go to askfishfisher.com and go ahead and still sign up and catch the replay on that. We also have 3 to 5 spaces available in our new critique cohort in working title. This is my book writing incubator. It is a lifetime access program, and it includes 1 year of critique circle. So after your first year, you can renew the critique if you need it. But the coaching and co-working and community aspect of it, those elements are lifetime access. So it's just the critique that is repetitive. And we do have a retreat ready to go. That is happening in August. I believe it is the last weekend in August. It's a 5-day retreat, the 23rd through the 28th, and that's going to be in Massachusetts. Now, to get access to the retreat, you need to be a member in good standing of the Working Title Writing Incubator community. So if you want to get in on that retreat, I suggest you go sign up, and that you can find at workingtitlestudio.com. Hooray! Okay, happy workspacing. Please tell me if these tips helped, and also if you have any more tips for organizing your space and creating a neurodivergent friendly workflow.